Have you checked the children? Your little master.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Long days and pleasant nights, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime and Fuego, and if it please you, join me here for a bit of palaver on Hail to Stephen King. That's right, and obviously, bienvenidos and welcome to the horror show. And yes, Sai King is my favorite author, and I have read all of his books, including Under the Dome, and not a personal favorite of mine, but I must say, after finally getting around to finishing this series, CBS, I have a newfound appreciation for the book. Not to say that I love it or anything like that, but wow. This really turned into something where with the first season it was quite faithful. I mean, tinkered with a few things here and there, but still relatively faithful to the spirit of the storytelling that Sai King put together in 2009 for that ginormous novel. Second season, which I also reviewed, obviously, that season went kind of wishy-washy for me, you know, I have to say, because about halfway through, it massively diverted and people started getting out of the dome and they started bringing in this corporate presence. I'm trying to remember what they were called, Acteon or something like that, but long story short, that just felt like it didn't necessarily know what it wanted to be. It wanted to retain some aspects of being in Chester's Mill and, you know, conflict amongst certain characters, but it most definitely fell prey to the fact that characters' motivations would be one place and then another place, and they're, you know, people who have murdered people and then it's quickly forgotten, and it's just so much illogicality all throughout that, especially with regards to Sloppy Sam and killing Angie. That was one of my biggest issues. Also, Big Jim and cold-blooded murders that he committed in season 1 and that in the second season, basically, after trying to frame Del Barber for them, he's just like, everybody quickly forgot about that, and who actually killed those people, you know? It was just, it was silly, okay? But the thing that I will at least credit the third season of this show about, and I have seen a lot of just massive derision and hatred for it, and I would imagine that's from people who really were fond of the source material. Since I wasn't supremely fond of the source material, except for, you know, a few characters in particular, this at least did something so drastically different from the source material. Not original. This borrows so much from so many different things, from Invasion of the Body Snatchers to The Matrix to, I mean, so many different things. I at least give it credit for being so batshit bonkers crazy in what it eventually becomes over the course of this third and final season. And the one thing that I will say, and I'm gonna try not to spoil a lot about this, there's at least a few things I have to say at the end, but the people behind the show, they have gone on record to say that, you know, the fans liked it, and, you know, even though some critics panned it and the ratings were declining massively, that they still felt pretty confident in the way that the show ended. You definitely left this on a cliffhanger, and you can say all that you want, but nonetheless, dare I say, I'm angry that there isn't more of this weird other turn of the wheel, because of the fact that I kind of want to know what ends up happening with some of these characters. It's really strange how they didn't so much get me on board, but, you know, as I've gone on record on this program, 200-something episodes at this point, to say many times, any sort of adaptation, whether incredibly faithful or really divergent and drastically different, which is especially what they tried to do with Castle Rock, obviously. It's a different level of that proverbial tower. It's a different turn of the aforementioned wheel. And once I separated myself, and especially since I didn't have as much of a closeness with the source material, very similar to like with the Mist TV series on Spike that was so different, I hated that show at first, but yet that also got canceled after just one season, and it got canceled on a cliffhanger is the point that I was going to make here. And so yeah, they can say what they want, but they had ideas for more storytelling, and it's very apparent at the end of this that there is a lot more that they could have delved into, and dare I say, I'm kind of bummed, man. I mean, even if they continued it in like graphic novel format, or if somebody felt compelled to do some sort of weird, I don't know, just fan story writing, fan fiction, I guess is the term that I was searching for there for a moment. But man, hey, at the end of the day, something like this is already fan fiction as it is. So let's get into it. All right. At the end of the second season, we have basically there is this mysterious girl named Melanie Cross, that shows up at the very beginning of the second season, and we don't know who she is, at least for a little bit, but you slowly start to unravel the fact that she was part of this group in the 80s that also included, oh boy, Dwight Yoakam's character, I'm forgetting what the hell his name was, but basically, so in the first season we find out that we need 4 hands to actually activate, this pink egg and all that other stuff. Well, apparently, as we find out in season 2 in the 80s, that egg was first found by 4 friends. That was this Melanie Cross girl who died when they found it, and then a couple more people, including Sloppy Sam and Jim, Rennie's wife, Junior's mother, who you think is dead, and then turns out she faked her death. Like, it was just convoluted and wishy-washy enough in the second season that I was just like, yeah, this is lame. But so Melanie, turns out she is like this resurrected key that has this alien presence within her, and so she falls into this like hole in the ground that is where the initial meteor that had the egg in it hit. And I know this is a lot for me to just even mention, but just to be brought up to speed, she falls into this hole that is created, and that is apparently after a doorway that was in a locker in the town. That's this new way to try to get all of the townspeople out, and so that's basically where we ended the second season, is wondering, what's up with Melanie, her basically just beckoning all of the people in Chester's Mill to go through. Julia's staying behind just to make sure everything's safe or some crap. I don't remember every single specific of why she was staying back, but so anyway, the whole town goes through, and flash forward, we're apparently a year later, and all these people have moved on, and there's this whole memorial sort of situation that is going on in Chester's Mill. The dome has been gone for a year, and they're basically memorializing and mourning all of these people that were lost, including Angie, including Junior and Julia and all this other stuff. And all of our respective characters have kind of moved on in different directions. You've got Nori, she's going to college, she's in a fraternity. Joe is still back in Chester's Mill though. Scarecrow is trying to figure himself out, doesn't know if he wants to go to school. We have this new character named Christine, who's like this therapist who's trying to help him, and various other people in the town or formerly there, including Sloppy Sam, who is he's in some sort of prison rehabilitation sort of thing for the alleged death of Angie, but yet there's still the possibility for him to get out. There's just so much weirdness in all of this storytelling. But the most notable thing is the fact that Del Barbara has teamed up with this character who was introduced in the second season by the name of Hunter, and they're basically out doing like this covert ops sort of stuff. And Barbie has found a new love interest, and it's this actress who I was trying to put my finger on who the hell she was at first, but then it dawned on me as I looked at her IMDb. I just recently saw her in Brave New World on the NBC Peacock show, which she was actually pretty strong in. And then speaking of another CBS connection, she's on the CBS All Access, one of the episodes of season 2 that also had Topher Grace. I believe it was called was it Try, something like that. It's about reliving a looping day. It's very much Groundhog Day. I wasn't that impressed with it, but her performance was good, and her performance is solid enough in this. She's very attractive, she's very skilled, and she has good chemistry with Barbie. So yeah, everybody is living these different lives, and you think, oh, okay, so Big Jim and Julia and Junior, they didn't make it out, and that's that. But then we flash back into the dome, and apparently the 3 of them are still alive, and they're trying to figure out what the hell to do. And then this is where, this is where it just gets really wacky, because they essentially find out some way to awaken themselves and get back into... So all of the people within the dome are in these weird, like, cryopod kind of things, just like the Matrix, and they're living in this fake alternate reality within their brains, and they're powering basically the dome with their life force, with their energy. And so this is where, when everybody is able, without spoiling stuff, to actually get out of these pods, they awaken and they realize, oh, they never even left the dome. They never, lived this year of their lives. They were just stuck in this imaginary land. They took that particular pill. They took the pink pill, I guess we'll say. And the funny thing is, they even, like, the kids, like, Nori and, Hunter and Scarecrow and stuff, Joe, they're all talking about how, hey, it was just like we were in the Matrix. And so that's where you're just like, facepalm, and you realize the nefarious purposes of this new character, Christine, and everything. And this is when it essentially turns into Invasion of the Body Snatchers sort of thing, and the town slowly, back under the dome, starts coming under the control, and there are these mindless drones and stuff, and it's just. They also build the mythology that, Action company, the one that Barbie's father worked for and stuff, who, wanted the egg to exploit for its powers and stuff like that. There's apparently been tons of eggs that, had fallen at various times, over the years, and they've tried to exploit their powers previously. I mean, but really, the show, when it leans on, even though they're borrowing so many different ideas, the show is a lot stronger when it's in that batshit craziness, as opposed to dealing with all of these new love triangles and stuff like that. I mean, Dale's new lady, along with, I'm trying to remember her name, Eva, I think. So it's basically Julia, Ava, and Dale, and so that's one love triangle. But then you've also got this same love triangle thing going on with Hunter and Nori and Joe, because back in the fake Matrix alternate dimension, Hunter and Nori, they kind of had a thing that was starting, which they hint at these things all the goddamn time. And then Sloppy Sam is, trying to stay sober, but he starts getting involved with this new character called Abby, who lost her child, and she's a drunk, and she pulls him back into it. I mean, it's such silly melodrama. And another thing, that as all of these plots are thickening with more of the town coming under the control of this new woman who's there, and, all those who escape the pods, they could easily fall back under the control and all this other stuff. That's where the show shines so much more significantly than when it's just doing this same sort of thing. Trying to see Christine's price, new villains, so on and so forth, brainwash pod people. Yeah, I've touched upon a lot of this. This is, as I say here in my notes, something that as I was about halfway through the season, and I was like, this is actually so ridiculously stupid, it's actually entertaining me. I redubbed it Under the Dumb, as opposed to Under the Dome, Under the Dumb. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of clever sometimes, but, if each of them had only half a brain, they'd still only have half a brain, that sort of thing. But, as I said, the whole alteration approach, regrettably, kind of like, Castle Rock and the Mist and stuff like that. I don't know, I warmed up to it over time. This is not good TV at all. And the extent of exposition that characters do in this, just constantly spoon-feeding and reminding the audience, oh, remember this happened? And do you remember we have to be afraid that this could potentially happen? And blah, 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 blah. There's also this, once people start getting under the control, once again, the primary aspect of the town, and even Barbie deals with it significantly at one particular point, and that was some of the most legit dramatic beats in this, I have to say. Throughout the entirety of the show, even if I didn't like how they softened Junior and Big Jim's characters, I will definitely say Julia and Barbie, the two actors that played them, were pretty stellar throughout, and some of the drama with Barbie getting under control in this season, and some of these really tense scenes that the pod person Barbie basically has with Julia, especially where he's saying stuff like "I don't love you," and some of the altercations that they have, both verbal and physical. It's really impressive stuff. It's really because a lot of people do bring their very solid acting game to this. It's the just insanity of the writing that inevitably doomed this show, and it's why it didn't reach a fourth season, even though they very obviously had ideas for it. Ratings were declining significantly, as I mentioned, and yeah, that's ultimately what sealed its fate, and so on and so forth. But it's the writing, and also just the familiarity of so much of what they were doing here, that it's obviously why people started just tuning out and not really caring very much anymore. Yeah, the terrible writing template. That's the thing. They just go back to, okay, let's keep in touch, and let's find this, and let's do this, and you know, more drama. So and so is good, and then they're not so good, and then they're bad, and then they're just kind of back in the middle. This, I guess, the storytelling served that sort of dynamic of uncertainty from time to time. But really, when characters do these flip-flop sort of things, which they've been notorious for throughout the entirety of the show, it's really just, oh man, it's just not very good storytelling. But there are fun Easter eggs here and there. I was amused that that Big Jim's dog that he finds and befriends for whatever reason is named Indy. We named the dog Indiana. That made me chuckle, at least for a little bit here and there. And I did kind of buy into the evil corporation trying to exploit the alien energy. I kind of was sold on that. I wasn't. It's not something out of the realm of possibility if that was to actually happen, either in real life or obviously we've seen that trope a lot in sci-fi and like this sort of thriller fantasy with sci-fi alien whatever sort of storytelling and whatnot. But yeah, we have the presence of that company that Barbara's father worked for. They become very heavily involved in this, and we have some of them under the dome. And, just getting involved and shifting alliances there, and you learn just more about the experimentation that they've done. And that was, once again, where I found it a little bit more intriguing, where they developed that sort of evil corporation aspect, and the head of it, like the actual, it's not Barbie's father, the actual head. He's an actor that I've seen numerous times before. African-American dude. He's really solid in this. I think he directed an episode too, if I'm not mistaken. But his character's name is Hector. And he's at odds with certain characters, and then it's like him and Big Jim butt heads, and then you wonder if they can, because warring factions, some people want the dome to come down, even though it's like, you keep saying the dome is going to come down, don't you mean it's going to go up? I just thought that terminology being used throughout was just like, what? But nonetheless, the people who want the dome to be gone versus the people who want it to stay down because they want to contain this infection, so to speak, and all of the infected people, they want to escape and just, I guess, proliferate, maybe, if that's the proper term, or infect is the easier one to throw at you. But yeah, so as it goes, despite the formulaic aspect of the writing and the melodrama and all this other stuff, dare I say, I had more fun with the second season of this show, just because it was so whacktastically nutsoid in comparison with the second season. That second season wanted to deviate but just wasn't really willing to commit. Boy, did season 3 commit, man. And once again, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know, but there's a character named Dawn, without getting into big time spoilers, who shows up at the end of this. And I guess, we're pretty much at the end of this review. I've said enough about Under the Dome season 3 and the series as a whole at this particular point. I'm glad that I finally got through it, but I will never revisit this, not at all. But if you're a King completist and you want to just see every adaptation, every weird deviation that's been done, whether it's a comic book, whether it's a television series, I have attempted to review everything Stephen King and Stephen King related on this channel, which is why I subjected myself to this. But yeah, man, so at the end of it, Dale, Barbara, and Ava, they have this child, and the child is going to be the new queen, who has the alien presence passed along to her to be this new leader that is going to get all of her little Droog brainwashed followers, who are all walking off like dodos on a cliff at one particular point in the season. She's going to get this group of people that are still remaining, and they're going to get the dome done with, and she's going to lead them out to, infect and do whatever else, take over the world, essentially. At least in a subtle degree, Invasion of the Body Snatcher style, like I said. And the fact that her character is named Dawn, and she has this rapid, quick growth and everything that happens with her. Like she's essentially she's like. Okay, she is in her mama's belly for just a couple of days, and then she's born, and then she's fully grown in a couple more days, and it's the same actress who played her mother, and she's just wearing this wacky blonde wig, and it just looks really cheesy, but I'm like, oh, Dawn, is this a new dawn for Chester's Mill? And then Christine's character says it on the voice recorder like 10 minutes after I said it to Catherine. And so I had a good chuckle about that. Just the warring factions there at the very end, and they do get the dome up, and yet 100% it does the same thing it did at the beginning of the season. It's a year later, and we catch back up with Barbie and Julia, and they're about to get married, and then Nori, she is all caught up and just super sad about the fact that Joe sacrificed himself to help get the dome up. And yet she still wonders if he's alive and everything. She's enlisted in the military because like halfway through the season, she takes this super badass turn and she's going around shooting mofos, and it's kind of cray in that regard. Hunter's working for the NSA. Big Jim is a politician now. Surprise, surprise, but he's in Washington. And they find out that Dawn is still alive. Yeah, they never had a body. Of course she's still alive. And it's a new egg that has come down, so they get the crew back together, and they're like, so what are we going to do about this? Yada, yada, yada. And so, yeah, they leave it wide open for a fourth season, and despite my many problems, it's like when you find yourself addicted to like really bad TV, and you're like, I'm so invested at this point that I want to watch more. There's like, no, it's like that car crash you can't keep your eyes away from sort of situation. That, in a nutshell, I guess in an eggshell, basically, is a better way of putting it, is the epitome of season 3 of Under the Dome. I know there's a lot of people who hate it way more than the second season, and especially the first, but I would really, hey, I have all the respect for Dome apologists and their adoration and affinity for this source material here, man, but I was at least a lot more entertained by this, as I said, this insane third season of the show, and dare I say, I'm a little disappointed. Not that disappointed, especially, with 13 episode seasons, but I am just a smidge, just a little bit, that there isn't more with these characters, because, I don't know. I was more compelled than I anticipated being, just, with as much as I loathe the second season of this show. 3 was not an improvement, but it was at least drastically different enough from the source material, even though it borrowed so much, that, hey, I kind of liked it. I'm shocked to say. So, I extend a grande gracias, everyone. I have been Jaime and Fuego, and you can find moi on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube, where I do also have my own personal channel. It's called Infuegotainment, and there's also links to my Patreon and stuff there, and yes, lots of additional stuff that I do beyond the Psy King stuff here and beyond the Spooktacular. Also want to remind all of you that the book of the month here in September is none other than Fa Sata. That's right, for its 40th anniversary. So yes, at the beginning of next month in October, we are going to be doing the next live stream all about that. And also, we haven't set a day just yet, but we are also going to be doing the final tier list ranking for the Stephen King novel collections and novella collections to finally finish off the tier list ranking stuff that I did a few months ago, and 5 parts going through the 5 decades of King creativity. But we still stay tuned on the Hail to Stephen King Facebook group if you would like to be a part of that, and also to our social media stuff here on The Horror Show, because we will be announcing when we do that live selection to properly finish all of that up. So I've been Fuego, y'all have been rad status as always, and until the Wheel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, sin amigos, constant readers and viewers alike. Say thank you for your time today, and I hope that we share more of this palaver sooner rather than later. And until then, stay scared and read Stephen King. And if you're feeling really brave, man, I mean, yeah, it's on CBS All Access. The entire series is streaming, so be forewarned. It's not like the book, but hey, it's strange enough to be enjoyable.